Oh, Astrid. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sporting a new microphone piece, so I'm making sure it works. Um, you wanted to bitch about something.
About many things. Yeah. So this whole thing that went down in Topeka at the Capitol building on Friday was the most, what are the words I'm looking for? First of all, the protesters, or I'm sorry, the counter protesters there were the most vile group of people that I've run across in a long time. The amount of hatred and vitriol that they were spewing against a group of people who were just to hold their religion was ridiculous. So, um, and then on that note, it was only the state cops that got arrested. Well, no, I think they did arrest the terrorist, the domestic terrorist that attacked one of the Satanists. They arrested him eventually after the fact when people complained. But
Domestic terrorist, really?
he is, yeah, he was charged with a felony for a bomb threat at our Pride event.
That's such bullshit.
22 years old.
22 years old
Yep.
and arrested for being a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, he's called in a bomb to the Pride parade.
Why couldn't any of the people that called in bomb threats during the election?
Right? But they'll
But what
call him
the,
a domestic terrorist now.
don't listen to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
So, so there was that, and it was these Christians that were instigating both of the executions that happened with the group at the Capitol, which is the Grotto. For them, in both instances, the guy who heads that organization was looking to the police that were right there for assistance, and neither time they helped him. But they did arrest him when he decided to take matters into his own hands and defend himself.
Right. Of
Yeah.
course.
So, like, I don't care that this kid is 22 and then he was just a little guy. And I mean, the organizer of that group, he's a bigger dude. The reality is that kid went after him several times. He stood back, looked at the police, ignored the kid, continued doing what he was doing. And not only that, the whole issue in the first place happened because they had originally been granted a permit to hold their ceremony inside the rotunda of the Capitol. And when the Catholic organizations in the area threw a hissy fit about it, they rescinded it, citing that they couldn't support illegal activity because the Catholic organizations had said that the group had broken into a Catholic church and stolen their sacred crackers and wine. I don't know if the group did. I do know that they also did buy these things on Amazon because they're available on Amazon. So, oh, now I can't do these. Oh, there you go.
I don't know either. I really don't. And I'm at a complete loss for the how, the why, the how, the why, or the what the fuck.
Yeah. So, this is kind of how it goes too, because there was maybe 40 or 50 Satanists there, and not everyone was Satanist. There's pagans. There was neutral parties that were just like, hey, we think you should be standing up to our right to practice any religion we want or not to practice at all. So there are some allies in that sense, and hundreds of Christians and Catholics hanging out. And it's the same thing that Elaine and I run into at Planned Parenthood. Last weekend on Saturday, there was 4 of us and at least 50 Catholics across the street, in addition to like maybe 10 evangelical types.
I have no love for Catholics. Can I just say that?
Me neither. So it's just even the local news media is bullshit, because in one of the like our kind of our main local media outlet, their headline was, oh gosh, what was it exactly? It was essentially along the line of self-proclaimed Satanists did this, so like completely disregarding the fact that this organization is a recognized religious organization, and that they're not they're self-described. I'm sorry, that was the phrase they used. Self-described Satanist. I'm like, really? Okay, so are you self-described Pentecostals then? Why are you choosing to frame things in that way? And media is biased.
So I have to share an experience where over the weekend, Jehovah's Witnesses came to my house. And so that means that I get to tell everybody my Jehovah's Witness story. So if anyone is a Jehovah's Witness, I apologize for being offensive when I say this. My biblical acumen is very well known. I have a very good understanding of Hebrew and Greek, both linguistically. And so the Jehovah's Witnesses came to my door yesterday, and one of my kids answered the door. And I was still asleep. And so, like, they went away. And I woke up, and my youngest, Charlie, looks at me and says, "Mom, the Jehovah's Witnesses were here." And I was like, okay, there's a rule in this house. And the rule in this house is if a religious person comes to the door, you invite them in, you give them food and drink, and then you come and get me and you wait. And the reason for this is, oh, Elaine, you just need to wait. Because I do it for the Mormons too, and the Christians. And so the last time this happened with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they came to my house, and it was two young boys, and I invited them in, and I gave them drinks, and I gave them food, and then I sat them down, and I let them talk. And they talked for like 15 minutes, and, you know, the power of this and the power of that, and I'm like, okay. And then I was like, is your spiel done? And they said, yes. And so my turn. And so I broke out my Jewish Press Times Tanakh, which is heavily annotated, and my Greek Interlinear, which is equally heavily annotated. And I picked through, and I talked for like half an hour, and the both of them were dumbfounded. And so they left, and they disappeared, and I thought, okay, that's it. I won't be bothered by them again. No, like 7 days later, the following Saturday, the same two boys and an older gentleman who looked like a deacon. And they said, like, he approached me and he was like, I understand you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes. Would you like to come in and sit down, and would you like to have a talk? And he was like, yes. And I said, okay. And so I invited him in with the two other boys, gave them all drinks, gave them sandwiches or whatever. And I told the older gentleman, have your talk. And he did talk for like 20 minutes. And so broke out my Tanakh, and I was quoting some Hebrew this time to make sure he was aware that he was dealing with an academic. And like after half an hour, the look on his face was, and so he got up and left. And I thought, okay, this is it. This won't happen again. A week later, same two guys, same older guy, and somebody who looked like they were about 80. And so I told him, I'm like, you want to have the same discussion? And the older, like the much older gentleman said, yes, I would like to hear what you have to say. And I said, okay. And so came in and sat down, gave everybody drinks, and um, he he said, I just want to hear what you have to say. And I was like, oh, you're not even going to give me the spiel or whatever. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, great. Grabbed my Tanakh off the wall, grabbed my Greek interlinear, spoke some Greek, spoke some Hebrew, went through the whole spiel. 30 minutes later, he got up, didn't finish his sandwich, walked towards the door, and then stopped. And okay, I guess this means you're going to leave. And so I got up to open the door and let him out. And he walked out, and before he left, he turned around to me and he said, I could never convert you. If I could convert you, you literally would be able to bring hundreds of people to the church and convince them of the church's strength. But I can't do that. As such, I will make sure that a Jehovah's Witness never comes to your door ever again, because you will drive my membership away. Like that. So, when the Mormons come to my door, when the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, they get invited in, and I attempt to save them from themselves. And I will tell you that it does not normally end well for faithfully minded individuals. Now, I say that amidst the fact that there are people who know about my biblical acumen, people who followed me on Twitter and watch me rip Christians apart. And I know it's not me, Amber, because my headphones are on. So, so I, everybody can still hear me, right? Okay, good. So there are people who knowledgeable um, of my biblical acumen have asked me to write articles on Thistle and Moss about why the Bible's fucked up, why Christians misinterpret shit all the time. And I won't do it. And not because I can't do it, I won't do it because there are enough people who will see me writing that as an attack, and I don't want to be purposely antagonistic. That said, however, if I am backed into a corner by a Christian, it does not normally end well. Here's what's funny. I'm very well acquainted with a variety of the okay, somebody's going to have to read what Thomas Potgeiser just said, because it literally filled up the screen and then went away. So, here's the thing. Yeah, if I get backed into a corner by a faithful Christian individual, and it's happened, as a trans woman, trust me, it's happened, and it's happened a lot. It does not go well. It literally will never go well. So I will tell you that put into a position where enough people tell me, Wendy, we want you to write about this, I will write about it. But I guarantee you, one, I'll lose subscribers because people will see that as an attack, despite the fact that my academia against that specific subject is like Dan McClellan level. But here's the funny part. So I know a bunch of Satanic Temple members. I know members of the Church of Satan. I know many Druids and many Wiccans. And interestingly enough, the only other person other than Dan McClellan knows as much about the Bible as I do is a member of the Church of Satan up in Indiana. And my favorite story about him was he was the guy who, when Mike Pence basically passed and signed into law as governor of Indiana the Religious Freedoms Law. He was the guy that petitioned the government to put a statue of Baphomet on the state capitol, and they said no. And he said, "Well, the law says religious freedom." And apparently, the House and Senate of the state of Indiana backed that law out so fast that the Church of Satan guy had to go without being satisfied of that condition.
And that was the drastic thing on Saturday. Was the Catholics were literally inside praying their rosary and doing what they do. And when Michael went in to do his prayer, he was attacked and got arrested. You remind me of a friend of Elaine and I joined on Saturday. She should tell you about him. And how he gets people to change their ignorant ways.
That is a skill. You can still hear me, right? Okay. That is a skill that I have had for a very long time. There was an occasion many years ago where I came into conflict with the church deacon, and I got into the same fight with him. And then, like 8 or 9 years later, I ran into him, and he said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to find you again." And I said, "Why? I mean, you want to hit me in the face again? Because I got assaulted over this shit." "Hi, Ann. How are you doing?" And so, no, I, I thought about what you said. I went through it for 2 years, back and forth, and after a year of fighting with myself, I left the church, and I walked the fuck away, and I never looked back. And I said, "Why?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because it was very obvious to me, based on your communication and based on the things that you were telling me, that I was wasting my life." And I said, "Well, so here's the thing. Here's what I say about people. If I am faced with someone who is a mindfully Christian person, and you talk to me, and you talk about the things that I know, and there are two possibilities. One, you will decide to turn away from the church, and you'll walk away, and that's fine. But you may have the other experience where you go in the other direction, and it makes you a better Christian. And from my perspective, those are two acceptable outcomes of that conversation. Is for you to believe that. And so I have a trans sister who was a very faithful Christian, and she wouldn't go to church because she was trans, and she was having a hard time reconciling that. And so I sat down with her, and I'm like, "Look, let's break out all the texts. Let's have a talk. For a couple of weeks. Come over on Saturday. I'll cook food up, and we'll sit down, and I'll drag out everything, and we'll talk through it." And so after 3 or 4 weeks, she finally said, "Wendy, I'm very happy." And I said, "Okay, why?" And she said, "I feel like I can go back to church." And I'm like, "Okay." And she looked at me and she said, "Wendy, I'm really uncertain. I would have thought you would have expected the outcome to be for me to tell you that I don't need to go to church anymore." I said, "No. Yeah, that's never my intent. It is not my job in life to convince people of one thing or another. It is my job in life. I feel it is my job in life. As a Druid, I believe this, to give whoever it is that I'm communicating with enough information to make that decision for themselves. Whatever decision that is. Okay. You walk the fuck away from the church because you realize you've thrown your life away, great. That's your choice. I just gave you enough information to draw that conclusion on your own. I don't try to convince people of anything. All of the things that I write on thistleandmoss.com are entirely predicated by the fact that if you're going to make an opinion if you're going to establish an opinion about something that you feel is true, you just need information. I give you a shit ton of information, and whatever conclusion you draw from that, that's entirely up to you. And I don't do that maliciously. I don't invite Jehovah's Witnesses into my house to maliciously attack them. I literally invite them into my house to sit them down and say, okay, well, you're saying this, and then here's the inconsistency, here's the hole, here's where that's not true, here's where you misinterpret that, and then here's that. And I'm not saying that maliciously. That's literally the linear logic of this whole situation, this. And they look at you, and like half the time it's, fuck you, you're attacking me, and I'm leaving. Okay, go, get out. So I'm not invested one way or the other. I'm invested in sharing information with people, and then people making their own minds up. Now, if those are opinions that that share my opinions, then great, good, great, we can be friends. But if you don't, or it convinces you of something else that's not necessarily congruent with my own opinion, great. I don't care. I mean, I'm 52 years old. I've been around the block a whole shit fuck ton of times. And I've seen a lot of shit. So that's why, yeah. But when you talk about aesthetics like the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple, and they're all great. They're all great people to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most of the Satanists that I know, including myself, come from evangelical backgrounds. In fact, one of my favorite things to yell at the protesters outside of Planned Parenthood is, how is it that you know your Bible better than you? Is they're stealing it. Now, not to claim that I know it anywhere near as well as I'm sure that you do, because I'm not, and I'm not a scholar or academic in that regard at all. But I know enough to know that what they're saying is just total bullshit.
So. Oh, I trust me. I literally could knock it out. I could, like, my top 30 or whatever, like, I could write like 4 articles, part 1 to 4, link them all together, and basically say, here, if you're faced with this type of Christian, Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon or whatever, if you're faced with any one of these types, here are the 20 things you say to that person to get them to leave you alone, stop trying to convert you, or offend them to such a high degree of certainty that they give you the finger and they walk the fuck away.
I mean, that's my goal, and I can do that in 10 words or less.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to reveal a secret to everybody. And this one works every time. This one works every time for a Jehovah's Witness. If you are faced with a Jehovah's Witness and they come to your door and you want them to leave and you want them to never come back, all you have to say to them is like, oh, can we come in and talk? Sure, we can. But it's Saturday. I have to go in a little bit because I'm going to go to church, and I'm going to take the body and blood of Christ and put it into my body in the communal tradition. They literally will turn away and walk away, and they'll never bother you ever again. Because the communal aspect of communion, church communion, so offends them that it literally, you'll kill it. You'll kill it right there. They won't even talk to you. I'm sorry, I have to go to church to take communion. Game over. Jehovah's Witnesses will never look at you ever again. I promise you. I won't do that to them, but me telling anybody else that, there you go.
I
And if
appreciate
you're a Jehovah's, and if you're a Jehovah's Witness, I'm very sorry for being offensive by saying that. Please don't be offended by what I've said. But yeah,
I'm not.
I know. I know. So anyway, so I hear you bitching, Astrid. I agree with you 100%. So was that what you wanted to bitch about?
Yeah, that was most of what's been on my mind lately, currently. Yes. So thank you for giving me the time and space to bitch about it.
Look, anytime, Astrid, I'm happy to. From my perspective, I don't like to sit up here and monologue. I like it when you guys come into the live session and we can talk.
Here's the thing, too. I don't want to come off as, first of all, I'm very individualistic in my belief system, and I'm not affiliated with any group. My particular hatred is for the Jesus followers. I don't have any great love for them. But I would love Elaine because she knows him better than I do. They have these very wonderful Jewish films. This one that speaks a lot like you and tends to take some of the same approach of being more gentle and kind and winning them over with knowledge and reason. That is not me. That's all I want to say. I'm just.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with that assessment. That's in line with what I would expect. So you're not wrong. Promise you. So until next time. Wow. That was a really good way to start off a live. I was going to offer to read through the Musk Twitter Tesla triangle, or I was going to offer to read through part 2 of the death of far right politics in the Republican Party. So it's up to you guys. So do you want to talk about the death of the Republican Party, or do you want to talk about how Elon Musk selling X, Twitter, to a company Musk already owns is circular financing and it's bullshit, and the SEC should violate him right now for doing so? I imagine it's the first one, but I'm waiting for opinions. Oh, death to Republicans. Okay, Julia, here we go. Here's how we're going to do this. Give it a minute. See, Julia, you answered first, so that means you're going to get dragged in, and then I'm going to talk through it.
I can never figure it out. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Hopeless.
That's okay. So I have to ask, did you read the article?
No. I've been having a nap. So
Okay, so I did a 3-parter, and the 3-parter was the death of far right politics and the Republican Party. So the first part of that was to chronicle 1930s Germany against the current MAGA mindset and how there's parallels between the two of them, because there are.
Yeah.
The MAGA mindset is very much the same mindset that existed in 1930s Germany, where hyperinflation was all fucked up and crazy, and so the second stage of that article was to talk about how the decline is starting to happen, and the reason for that is when economic anxiety is high and institutional constraints are weak, politicians can exploit cultural fears and insecurities to win support for policies that ultimately undermine economic interests of their own supporters. They can use that fear to erode the policies out from under the people that exhibit the problem. And so the deep story of the right is about waiting in line for the American dream, and they all talk about it. And when other people get in front of them because of some set of circumstances, the government, other people, whatever, and they feel betrayed by the government that was supposed to protect their place in line, they get pissed off. And when that happens, the economic reality eventually forces a reckoning with the narrative when promised benefits don't materialize or they erode away. So, I have said this before. Social Security in the United States is a third rail issue. No Republican Party member that ever fucked around with Social Security survived the term after that. It just doesn't happen. So you can, so Donald Schittsberger and his congressional lapdogs have made no secret about their jizz dream of making Social Security go away. We've seen it with Musk. Musk calls Social Security, it's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. The bitter irony is that they have to face brutal math. In rural America, where MAGA hats are as common as pickup trucks, Social Security in the United States provides 50% of the income of those individuals.
Yeah.
So if those individuals support Musk and Doge and Trump, they are putting their own ability to retain that money in danger.
Yeah.
When you do that against Medicaid and Medicare, that's the second rail. Third rail, second rail.
Yeah.
So the most devious aspect of the approach is the deliberate complexity and ultimate reduction of Medicaid and Medicare benefits. The human consequences of those changes reverberate strongly against the MAGA community because they're all complicit in Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. And so rural hospitals already struggle to keep their doors open. They survive on Medicaid and Medicare.
Yeah.
When MAGA immediately allows those institutions to erode out from under them, it causes all of that to shut the fuck down. And so as the medical abandonment transforms from abstract policy to personal betrayal in the minds of MAGA supporters, the first cracks in their devotion start to happen. We've seen that. I mean, there are interviews with people who have said, "Oh my God, I regret my vote. I shouldn't have done this." That's the devotional cracks in the MAGA mentality. Now, here's the other thing. Doge and Trump are going to gut the Housing and Urban Development Office, which is going to affect housing costs. On top of the fact that the increase in inflation is also going to affect housing costs. So there you go. All low-income housing, all federally funded housing, that's all going to go away.
Yeah.
And so a whole swath of MAGA people are going to be affected by it.
Funny that.
And they voted. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they voted for it. So MAGA devotees are already struggling with rent increases that outpace wage growth because their wage growth and wage disparity against richer people is not coming together. The American dream of home ownership is going out the fucking door. The tariffs against the automakers are going to go into effect, what, tomorrow, Tuesday? That's going to drive up, 2 days, car ownership by $5,000 to $10,000 per car, which is going to threaten car ownership rights. And then on top of that, all of that is going to cause inflation to go up.
Yeah.
So people complaining about my groceries are too expensive, they're going to get more expensive. Most leading economists have suggested that going into next month, inflation is going to go up by 3.5%. It went up by 4.3% last month.
Yay!
And here's the thing. Inflation is a global problem.
Yeah.
So this isolationist bullshit that Trump is trying to play into makes it worse. But he's making it worse for everybody, not just the United States. And so, Elon Dwarf Dick, talking about efficiencies in government translate directly to eliminated jobs, reduced services, economic contraction in precisely the communities that form the backbone of their support system. And each government department gutted in the name of small government represents paychecks that no longer flow into local economies, services that are no longer support vulnerable citizens. The stability evaporates like water on a hot sun day. And the feel of the rough texture of callous hands counting out pennies at the checkout counter become more obvious. These aren't abstract economic theories. We're not even talking about abstraction. We're literally talking about the affordability of those individuals. And so Trump and Musk are eroding all of those concepts out from under everybody. And so it will cause, at least at the rural level, a complete economic collapse. We'll have another Dust Bowl situation.
Hey, buddy.
So, Trump and Elon represent a particular betrayal of rural America. Their vision of smaller government translates directly to less support for the very programs that keep rural communities alive.
Yeah.
There was the guy that CNN interviewed before the election who was in South Dakota, and he ran a farm, and he had like 50,000 migrant workers who worked on the farm, 24 hours around, 24/7, milking cows. That guy lost half his workforce because of the deportation scares. And that guy's in trouble now. And he can't go to the Farm Bureau because Trump is going to gut the Farm Bureau for farm relief. And that guy's going to lose out. And then food costs are going to go up.
Well, there's going to be less food.
Yes.
Period.
Which, the economic disparity against that is, it's going to cause the wealth gap to go from that to that.
which is what it's all about.
Wealth disparity is already at an all-time high, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to improve. That betrayal is bitterly unique. It coats the tongue like pennies and ashes, and that metallic bite is horrible. But MAGA voters watch their economic security erode away, while the wealthy enjoy unprecedented tax breaks, regulatory favors. That gap continues to get wider and wider and wider until eventually, the MAGA right have all gone into an impoverished state. And
along with a lot of the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly. With the rest of us.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, I'm an unemployed technologist. It's not like I'm not out there trying to accomplish this. Of course, I wasn't an unemployed technologist 12 days ago, but I am now. So yeah, this is shit I care about.
We're
so
all
there's
in
going
it
to be
together.
Huh?
We're in it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a big change from Trump's way of doing it and actually the MAGA's way of looking at it.
Yes, exactly. So there's a breaking point, and we're about to see it, when economic pain trumps political identity. So when the economy gets so bad that Trump can't do anything about it, which, by the way, a lot of people conjecture that's what he wants. He wants the economy to completely tank so that he can turn it around and save the country. Here's the problem. That economic disparity and that economic crash is not something that he can stop.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, he can't. History teaches us that there's a limit. When people can't afford medication, when they're losing their homes, when their communities are collapsing around them, eventually the primal need for survival overrides their political loyalties. And when that happens, Trump loses. The sensory experience of this awakening varies from person to person, and it takes time. I'm not trying to discredit that. But the visual shock of seeing someone's Social Security check that no longer covers basic necessities, that's the breaking point. And for others, it's the physical pain of untreated medical conditions because Medicare benefits have been cut. For many, it's the nauseating smell of mold in the only apartment that they can now afford because the housing costs have gone through the roof. Or the sound of their children's stomachs growling because groceries are too expensive for them to afford. That's the breaking point. And when that point happens, and I believe you're going to see it, you're going to see MAGA fold, and they're going to fold quickly.
Is it going to be too late, though?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think so. Here's why I don't think so. I don't think that we're actually ever going to go into a depression. What I will say is this. The U.S. will go into a recession. That will cause, accession, recession, depression. There's a wave. So what's going to happen is we're going to get to about here, halfway into the recession. When that happens, that's going to be the breaking point. And it's very funny because that means, from my perspective, from a timing perspective, that means the midterms. So look at Florida. There is a Florida Senate race going on Tuesday. And Republicans are worried about that race. And here's why. The Democrat who is running against the Republican in that seat has a 3-point lead on the Republican candidate. And this is fucking Florida.
Yeah. Red.
This is fucking Florida.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that Trump pulled his nomination of Elaine Stefanik for UN ambassador.
Yeah.
And the reason that he pulled her back was because he can't risk to lose a seat in the House. Yeah. Because the House margin is so close. Mike Johnson can only afford to lose one vote. If they pull Stefanik out, that seat could go blue, and it would fuck the whole situation. So that's the breaking point. But here's the issue: the economic road to recovery, and this is the thing that hurts. The bitter taste of this reality check will linger long after Trump's flags have been taken down. But there's a strange hope in that awakening. As more MAGA supporters confront the gap between economic promise and economic reality, the possibility emerges for a new politics based on actual material need rather than cultural greeds. That possibility is like a fresh air after a thunderstorm, clearing away the acrid stench of demagoguery, offering the chance for something more authentic to emerge.
A beacon
That
of hope.
transition, yeah, that transition won't be smooth or easy. The disillusionment by MAGA supporters won't automatically translate to progressive politics or even coherent alternative vision. Many will simply just withdraw from politics entirely and just not participate. But some will emerge from that experience with hard-won wisdom about the gap between populist rhetoric and plutocratic reality. They'll have learned through enough painful personal experience that economic policy matters more than cultural symbolism, and that concrete programs affect daily life more than abstract promises. And so, I said this before. So, you know about you know about Margaret Thatcher, right? So I've said this before. So after Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister of England, it was really after that that the political spectrum in England went from that to that.
Mm.
And so, after Margaret Thatcher, everybody was either center right, center left, or dead center.
Mm-hmm.
There was no far right or far left politics in the UK at the time.
I couldn't
and I have
afford
said, yeah. And so I have said that's what needs to happen in the US is that this needs to go to that. Because when that happens, cultural progressivism can continue to go in the direction that it's going to go. And government officials aren't attacking minorities and trans people, and queer people, and any other people. It's really just focused on the governing situation. And that's what all this populist far right bullshit that we see now, it'll disappear.
It should be great.
And here's why. Autocracies take an inordinately long period of time to establish. In the BRICS countries, those autocracies took 10, 12 years. There's no way Trump can do that in a year. He can do enough damage to piss enough people off. Yeah. And Rouser, I should point out to you that Republicans want to change the Constitution. That's right. They can't do it. Here's why they can't do it. They don't have the votes in the House and the Senate to accomplish even the remotest of constitutional amendments. Constitutional amendment is a 2/3 vote. There are many cases where a constitutional amendment might require a state convention. And if it goes to state conventions, it's really not going to fucking happen.
Good point.
I mean, look at the repeal of prohibition. There was a constitutional amendment that made alcohol illegal in the U.S. And then years later, they repealed it. Read about the history of what it took for them to repeal it.
Okay.
That is not something that Trump is capable of. And then on top of that, let's also be clear about this. The judiciary, the court system, is already predicating signs that they have no desire to fuck around with the Constitution. There's cases that are going up to the Supreme Court where Trump was, I want to end birthright citizenship. That's the 14th Amendment. I want to end this. I want that. I want this. I want that. That's going to end up. Look, the decisions that the Supreme Court has made over the last month have all shown that court will not in any way affect negatively the Constitution. They're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So Trump can blow all the. I think the Department of Justice on Friday is expecting the Supreme Court to rule whether Trump can continue to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport citizens. We're not actually at war with anybody. I, in good conscience, do not believe that the Supreme Court, if they take up the case, are even going to bat an eye. And if they do, it's going to go 7-2. 7 against, and the 2 for Thomas and Alito, who were both MAGA, patriots themselves. Thomas, it's time for him to go. Alito, too, for that matter. But at the core of it, no, I don't think that. So, they can say they want to change the Constitution. Good fucking luck.
That's good news.
So there you go. There's your. Now I will tell you. I will tell you, Julia, that tomorrow at 10 a.m. I won't read it to you. I'll just read you the quotes that I put into it. And that's political parties that become captured by their most extreme elements eventually face a reckoning. And that reckoning is either to evolve toward the center where most voters live, because make no mistake, far left, far right, more voters live here than here. Or they accept permanent minority status in a democratic system that will just eventually erase them.
Interesting. It's like the distribution of normal.
Yes, exactly.
They're the tail ends. They're not the
if you're a psychologist, norms, mores, and taboos.
Yeah.
Social norms are where everybody live.
Funny.
Mores are where the cool people live.
Yeah.
And taboo are where the even cooler people. But I digress.
Quite.
The conservative movement's embrace of authoritarianism and conspiracy theories represents not strength, but a terminal decline. And desperate attempts to preserve power in the face of demographic and cultural changes that can't be reversed, only accommodated. Can't reverse those, they'll be accommodated. That's how it works. And so the final part. Actually, there's even a fourth part into the death of the Republican Party, because everybody has asked me repeatedly, Wendy, what can I do? I wrote a fourth part to that, and I'll publish it on Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, of literally, here's what you as a person can do. But yeah, I think the decline of far-right and populism-based politics, we're watching it right now.
Good. That's very comforting.
Yeah, of course. So there you go, Julia. Does that make you feel a little better?
Well, you know what? It's all happening. So we have to come to terms with it. This helps come to terms with it and go, okay, we're playing a long game here, and we're together. Yeah. We've got a safe space to talk about it.
Yes.
Which is,
exactly.
Thank you for that. It's enormously comforting. I say that all the time, but it's really true.
No, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, I don't derive hope from it if I didn't have other people telling me.
Yeah. We're all in it together. We really are. But you do it so well. It's great.
A lot of caffeine, a lot of being angry, a lot of no sleep, and a lot more angry on top of that. I've said this to people. 2 o'clock in the morning hits and I wake up and I can't go back to sleep. I literally grab my phone and I start voice to texting shit. and then I'd like read for like a few minutes, and then I'll start voice to texting shit, and I keep voice to texting until I've got like 25 pages of shit, and then I'm unemployed, so I wake up in the morning, and when I wake up in the morning, I go through all my job applications or whatever. I spend an hour doing that, and then I go back to my phone, and I'm like, oh, I like voice transcribed all this shit. I need to go back and like split it up and make sure the grammar is all right. Um, and then I throw that into drafts, and then Miranda, the editor, goes and reads my shit, and then she tells me it's either, Wendy, this is fabulous writing, I don't understand how the fuck you do this, or Wendy, this is a total wreck, I'm gonna need a couple of days to fix this. And I say, okay, well, sure, great.
Oh well,
But
you're
that's
a great
how
team. Yeah.
that's how I really, but I would say I probably voice to text between 18,000 and 25,000 words a night on a night where I don't sleep very well.
Yeah, that's a great method.
So
Hadn't occurred to me. Kudos.
I try.
Oh, you succeed, darling. You succeed.
I try. When all this shit is over, I'm not going to have anything cool to write about anymore. I think I need to start a People magazine.
You've got lots to write about. Don't you worry about it.
And then just talk about human shit, right?
Sure. Well, yeah. That's all mixed up with all this now, but yeah. I don't think you'll ever run out of things to say. Trust me.
Gosh, I hope not.
No, your brain is way too active. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to run. It's dinner time here. But
hey, what are you eating? I have to ask.
I have a broken ankle, so I'm not doing very much. My husband is. Yeah, I know. I slipped. I broke it in 3 places. Go big or go home. But it's pickerel, big broiled. I think broiled pickerel.
What the fuck is broiled pickerel?
Well, pickerel's a fish. Oh, it's a Canadian thing. It's a Canadian thing.
I'm Googling this shit right now.
Yeah, there's a recipe. You put globs of butter on it and stick it in the oven. But it doesn't take long,
1 pound of fillets, 2 tablespoons of olive oil or butter, salt, pepper, zest of lemon, 2 spices of your choice, garlic, thyme, or oregano, feta cheese, and a green pepper. Sound right?
You got it.
Okay, well, shit, that sounds amazing.
Yummy. And I made the poodle's food. The poodle is here. There he is. Oh, I made his food while we were chatting. So, yeah.
You make his food?
No, I put it together from kibble and canned food.
So you do a kibble and canned food?
Yeah.
That's actually brilliant. So with the cat, I occasionally give the cat like a fish derivative on top of his kibble or whatever, but he doesn't bitch, so I'm happy.
Yeah. We have made food for a very allergic dog, but Monty's pretty good, so he doesn't need that. Yeah. No, pets are great.
Yes. Go enjoy your food. Please don't let me keep.
Thank you. It's been delightful. As usual.
Always. As always. Next time round.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. Julia, always at the light. Yeah, so I think that's really all we're going to do for tonight. Does anybody have any questions? I'll open the floor for questions and comments. And I promise this time I'll actually see them and respond to them. So, nobody has still yet to have guessed the car. One of these days somebody's going to get it, but I don't know who it is. I don't know who it is yet. but the car has not been guessed. So anyway, does anybody think that it's still my microphone that was causing the feedback, by the way? I'm pretty sure it wasn't me. 67 Pinto, Rouser, no. No, that's not it. I put the Pinto picture in the original article. Here we go. I'm going to go and find it now. Mystery. Here you go. Anybody that wants to guess the car, go have fun with that. 85 Buick Somerset. No, Elaine. That's not it. No, Elaine. That's not it. I'll just go on ahead and tell you, Elaine, you're in the wrong decade. So, I know. By the way, tomorrow, I want everyone to know we're going to go later for the live session. I'm going to schedule the live session for tomorrow at 8:30 because at 9 o'clock for 15 minutes, Miranda is going to be speaking for herself at the end of the live, and then I'm going to shut up and stay quiet while she talks to all of you guys. So be prepared for that. But I'm going to schedule tomorrow's live at 8:30, and then we'll go from there. 72 Trans Am, and you're like the one of the like 3 people who have gotten the closest to it. Yeah, I'm sure, Rouser. I completely. So with that, I want to tell you all, if you're a paid subscriber to the publication, thank you for being a paid subscriber. Thank you for helping me deal with this vulnerable time in my life. Not that I haven't had vulnerable time in my life before, but I'm certainly thankful now. If you're a paid subscriber, so thank you. If you're a free subscriber, thank you. Continue being a free subscriber. Continue reading and continue sharing with everybody. Because if you get the word out, then we can all have the information that we need. If you're in a safe place, stay in your safe space and do what you can. If you're not in a safe space, do what you can to get into a safe space. And if you need help, ask us. Ask me, ask any one of the other readers. But we need you all to be alive and well for each other as much as for me, as much as you need me alive and well for all of you. And I want you all to remember that. So thank you. No, not Microsoft. Never Microsoft. I want you all to know that I love all of you. And please stay safe out there.